The text came at 6:47 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. I was already awake, going through the monthly bills I'd been secretly paying for my family for the past 5 years. My phone buzzed, displaying my mother's name, and for a moment, I actually thought she might be texting to apologize for last night's argument. I should have known better. Don't show your face here today. You're a disgrace to this family. Your sister's new boyfriend is joining us instead. Someone who actually makes us proud. My name is Michael Anderson, and at 32, I've spent the better part of my adult life trying to keep my family afloat, while they treated me like their biggest disappointment. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so painful. I stared at the text, my coffee growing cold beside my laptop where I'd been arranging automatic payments for their utilities, mortgage, and various credit cards. 5 years of financial support, all done quietly through an LLC, I'd set up to keep them from knowing it was me. They thought some distant relative had left them a trust fund. I never corrected them. Another text buzzed through. And don't bother trying to guilt trip Dad. This time, he agrees you're not welcome. Of course he did. Dad always agreed with Mom, especially when it came to comparing me to my perfect younger sister Amanda. The fact that I'd built a successful tech company meant nothing compared to Amanda's string of prestigious but ultimately temporary jobs and her rotating cast of successful boyfriends. Last night's argument had been the final straw. I'd stopped by their house to drop off some groceries, something I did regularly, though they thought the delivery service was part of their mysterious trust fund benefits. Amanda was there, showing off her latest boyfriend, a hedge fund manager named Blake. Now this is the kind of success we always hoped for in our children, Mom had said, beaming at Blake, while I stood in the kitchen, quietly putting away the food I'd bought. Blake, you should give Michael some career advice. He's always struggled to find his path. I'd built my company from nothing, working 80-hour weeks while living in a tiny studio apartment, eating ramen noodles and coding until my eyes burned. Now I employed over 50 people, and had just closed a major deal that would secure our growth for years to come. But to my family, I was still the disappointment who dropped out of the prestigious law school they'd pressured me to attend. Actually, I'd said, finally reaching my limit, my company is doing quite well. We just signed a contract with Oh Honey. Mom had interrupted, patting my arm condescendingly. We know you do something with computers, but Blake here manages millions in investments. That's real success. I'd left shortly after, ignoring Amanda's smirk and Blake's patronizing attempt to give me his business card. Call me if you ever want to discuss real investment opportunities, he'd said, winking like he was doing me a favor. Now sitting at my desk the next morning, looking at the text banning me from Thanksgiving dinner, something inside me snapped. I opened my laptop and pulled up the utility company's website, where I managed their accounts. My finger hovered over the cancel service button. They had no idea that their mysterious trust fund was actually me. No clue that their mortgage payments, car loans, utility bills, and even their weekly grocery deliveries all came from their supposedly unsuccessful son. The son they'd just banned from Thanksgiving dinner. My phone buzzed again. Amanda this time. Way to go, making Mom cry again. Some brother you are. Blake says he knows some entry-level positions if you ever want to do something meaningful with your life. I clicked the button. Service cancellation confirmed flashed across my screen. 5 years ago, when I'd started secretly paying their bills, things had been different. Mom had lost her job as a high school principal after a scandal involving misappropriated funds. Dad's small accounting firm had gone under when several major clients left simultaneously. They were about to lose everything means. The house I'd grown up in, their cars, their reputation in the community they'd spent decades building. I'd just sold my first major software project, and the money was more than I'd ever imagined having. Setting up the LLC to anonymously pay their bills had seemed like the right thing to do. They were my family, after all. When the first payment went through, and Mom called excitedly about the letter she'd received explaining about a distant relative's trust fund, I'd felt good about my decision. This is a blessing, she'd said back then. Finally something good happening to our family after all the disappointments. She'd been looking right at me when she said disappointments. Even their financial rock bottom hadn't stopped them from criticizing my choices. The day I'd told them I was dropping out of law school to focus on my tech startup, Mom had cried for hours. How could you throw away a real career for some computer fantasy? She'd wailed. Dad had just shaken his head, muttering about wasted potential. A week later, the first trust fund letter arrived, and suddenly they had a new topic of conversation. Their mysterious benefactor became a regular dinner table discussion, while I sat quietly, listening to them speculate about which relative had left them this gift. It must be someone who really understands success, Mom would say, unlike some people who waste their opportunities. I'd gritted my teeth and said nothing. The years passed, and my company grew. I moved from my studio apartment to a modest house in a nice neighborhood, though my family rarely visited. "It's sweet that you're comfortable here," Mom would say, "but you could do so much better if you'd just apply yourself like Amanda." Amanda, who'd bounced from job to job, always landing on her feet because our parents' now stable financial situation meant she had a safety net. Amanda, who'd just moved back home between careers, bringing her new boyfriend to judge my life choices. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, this time, your mother is very upset. I don't understand why you can't be more like your sister. Blake is already more of a son to us than you've ever been." I opened another browser tab and logged into the mortgage payment portal. 5 years of payments, never missing one, never letting them know it was me keeping their lives comfortable while they treated me like a failure. The irony of it all hit me again. They had no idea that their supposedly unsuccessful son had been their financial savior. No clue that their precious Blake probably managed less money than I donated to charity last year. I thought about all the family dinners I'd sat through, listening to them praise Amanda's temporary successes, while dismissing my actual achievements. The countless times they'd used their trust fund to help her out of tight spots while lecturing me about responsibility. Last Christmas, they'd given Amanda a car, paid for with my money, though they didn't know it. My gift had been a self-help book about finding career direction. "We're just worried about you," Mom had said, watching me unwrap it. "You seem stuck in this computer thing, while your sister is out there really making something of herself." I'd been in the middle of negotiations for a government contract worth millions at the time. My finger hovered over the mortgage payment cancellation button. Was I really going to do this? Years of keeping quiet, supporting them from the shadows, swallowing their criticism while literally keeping their lights on means. Was I ready to let it all go? My phone buzzed one more time. A group text from Mom. "Since Michael has chosen not to be part of this family, we'll be having Thanksgiving dinner at 4 p.m. Blake has graciously offered to say grace. Amanda, honey, maybe you could invite Michael's ex-girlfriend Sarah. She always was more suited to this family than he was." Sarah, who dumped me last year because I lacked ambition. Sarah, who Amanda had immediately befriended, and now invited to every family function. I clicked the button. Mortgage payment service canceled, joined the utility cancellation confirmation in my notifications. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a strange mix of guilt and liberation. The house's electricity would go out first. I'd scheduled that for precisely 4:15 p.m., right as they'd be sitting down to dinner. The other utilities would follow shortly after. The mortgage payment system would register the cancellation on Monday, triggering a series of automated warnings. My phone buzzed again. Amanda had posted a Facebook status, "So blessed to have a real man joining our family Thanksgiving this year. Some people just don't understand the importance of family. Blessed family first, successful boyfriend." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a file I'd kept for 5 years. Every payment, every transaction, every piece of evidence showing exactly who had been keeping their lives comfortable while they treated me like a failure. I'd always thought I'd take this secret to my grave, be the bigger person, keep supporting them quietly while hoping someday they'd see my value. But something had changed. Maybe it was the text banning me from dinner. Maybe it was Blake's condescending business card. Maybe it was just the accumulation of years of subtle jabs and not so subtle comparisons. I picked up my phone and typed out a message. "Enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner. Don't forget to thank your mysterious benefactor for all those bills they've been paying." Then I turned off my phone, grabbed my laptop and headed to my favorite coffee shop. I had a feeling the next few hours would be interesting, and I wanted to be somewhere with good Wi-Fi and better coffee when it all hit the fan. After all, their power would go out in exactly 8 hours and 43 minutes, and that was just the beginning. I settled into my favorite corner at the Daily Grind, ordered a large Americano, and watched the clock tick toward 4 p.m. The barista, Katie, who'd become a friend over years of me working here, noticed my unusual tension. "No family dinner today?" she asked, sliding my coffee across the counter. "Not exactly," I replied, managing a small smile. "Let's just say I'm taking a different approach to Thanksgiving this year." My phone remained off, sitting face down next to my laptop. I'd set up email notifications for each utility cancellation, so I didn't need to watch the chaos unfold in real time through texts and calls. Part of me felt guilty about what was about to happen, but then I remembered this morning's texts and steeled my resolve. The coffee shop was quiet, just a few other holiday refugees like myself, seeking sanctuary from family obligations. I opened my laptop and pulled up the document I'd been maintaining for 5 years, a detailed spreadsheet of every payment, every bill, every financial rescue I'd orchestrated for my family. while they continued to treat me like their greatest disappointment. Total amount, $847,632.14. Seeing it laid out in black and white was sobering. Almost $1 million spent on maintaining their lifestyle, while they praised Amanda's boyfriend for his financial acumen. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so painful. At exactly 4:15 p.m., my email pinged utility service disconnection confirmed. I imagined the scene unfolding at home. Mom would be just starting to serve dinner, probably telling everyone how peaceful it was without me there to bring down the mood. Blake would be preparing to say grace, no doubt ready to showcase his sophisticated prayers to his potential in-laws. Amanda would be soaking up the attention, perhaps already planning how to post about their perfect family dinner on social media. Then the lights would go out. At 4:17 p.m., another email gas service disconnection processed. I took a sip of my coffee, remembering last Thanksgiving. I'd just closed a deal that had made my company the leading software provider in our sector. When I tried to share the news, Mom had interrupted me to ask Amanda about her new job as a yoga instructor. Now that's a real contribution to society, she'd said proudly. Not just playing with computers all day. The yoga studio had closed 3 months later, but by then Amanda had already moved on to her next career path. At 4:30 p.m., I finally turned on my phone. The notifications started flooding in. 47 missed calls from Mom, 23 from Dad, 31 from Amanda, 15 from unknown numbers. Probably Blake. 142 text messages. I opened the first text from Mom, sent at 4:16 p.m. Something's wrong with the power. Call me immediately. Then at 4:18 p.m., the gas is out too. What's happening? 4:20 p.m. Dad, the utility company says our account has been closed. This must be a mistake. 4:22 p.m. Amanda, Mom is freaking out. Blake says this is totally unprofessional of the utility company. He's going to file a complaint. 4:25 p.m. Mom, I just called about the trust fund. They said they don't have any record of it. Michael, if you know anything about this, you need to tell us right now. 4:30 p.m. Blake, hey bro, things are getting pretty intense here. Your mom's crying. Maybe you could help sort this out. I know some people in the utility business. I couldn't help but laugh at that last one. Blake, still trying to play the successful mentor even in the middle of chaos. I wondered how long it would take them to piece everything together. The answer came at 4:45 p.m. Mom, the trust fund was you. Followed immediately by, call me right now young man. How dare you do this to your family? I started typing a response, then deleted it, then typed again. I thought I was a disgrace to the family. Shouldn't you be enjoying your perfect Thanksgiving with Blake and Amanda? Don't worry about the bills. I'm sure Blake's hedge fund salary can cover them. After all, he manages millions, right? The response was immediate. You spoiled, ungrateful child. How dare you cut off our utilities on Thanksgiving? After everything we've done for you. I took another sip of coffee, and replied, everything you've done for me? Let's talk about everything I've done for you. Check your email. I just sent you a detailed spreadsheet of every payment I've made over the last 5 years while you treated me like a failure. The coffee shop had gotten quieter, just a few people left now. Katie brought me a fresh cup without asking, giving me a supportive nod. She'd heard enough of my family stories over the years to know something big was happening. My phone started ringing. Amanda. I let it go to voicemail. More texts poured in. Amanda, Mom and Dad are hysterical. How could you lie to us like this? Blake says what you did is probably illegal. Dad, son, we need to talk about this. Your mother is very upset. Blake, hey man, let's handle this professionally. I can help you figure out a payment plan to restore services. I laughed out loud at that last one, startling the few remaining coffee shop patrons. Blake still thought he was in a position to offer me financial advice. I replied to him, thanks Blake, but I think I can manage my own money. By the way, how's that hedge fund doing? Because I just looked up your firm. Interesting that they've never heard of you. There was a long pause after that. Then Amanda, how dare you question Blake's credentials? He's more successful than you'll ever be. I opened my email and sent Amanda a simple screenshot, Blake's LinkedIn profile, showing he was actually a junior clerk at a small investment firm, not the hedge fund manager he'd claimed to be. The next wave of texts was chaos. Mom, stop trying to ruin your sister's relationship. Blake is a wonderful man. Amanda, those records are old. Blake got promoted. Blake, not cool bro, not cool. I sent one more email, this time to all of them. It contained proof of every payment I'd made, every bill I'd covered, every financial crisis I'd secretly solved. And at the bottom, my company's latest valuation report showing exactly how unsuccessful I really was. The silence that followed lasted almost 10 minutes. Then, from Mom, "Why didn't you tell us?" I stared at those 5 words for a long time. Years of dismissal, of condescension, of being compared unfavorably to Amanda and her string of boyfriends. "And that's what she asked," I replied. "Would it have mattered? You were too busy being impressed by fake hedge fund managers to notice your son built a multi-million-dollar company." "We need to talk about this," Dad texted. "The power company says it will take days to restore service. We can't afford these bills on our own." "I know," I replied. "That's the point. Maybe it's time you understood what real success looks like. It's not about impressive titles or fancy business cards. It's about building something real, something that lasts. I did that, but you were too busy being disappointed in me to notice." Katie brought me another coffee, and a slice of pumpkin pie. "On the house," she said. "Sounds like you're having quite a Thanksgiving." I nodded, watching as more messages flooded my phone. Amanda was switching between begging me to turn the utilities back on, and defending Blake's increasingly obvious lies about his career. Mom oscillated between anger and attempts at guilt tripping. Dad mostly sent variations of "we need to talk about this." At 6 p.m., I sent one final text to the family group chat. "I've spent 5 years and almost $1 million supporting this family while you treated me like a failure. Today, you banned me from Thanksgiving dinner, because I wasn't successful enough to sit at the same table as Blake. Consider this my resignation, as your secret benefactor. Happy Thanksgiving." Then I turned off my phone again, closed my laptop, and enjoyed my coffee and pie in peaceful silence. The real fallout would come tomorrow, when they realized I wasn't bluffing about canceling the mortgage payments. But for now, I savored the quiet and the knowledge that somewhere across town, my family was finally seeing me for who I really was. Katie refilled my coffee one last time. "Better than family dinner?" she asked with a knowing smile. "Much better," I replied, raising my cup in a toast to my first honest Thanksgiving in years. The day after Thanksgiving dawned with a strange sense of calm. My phone showed 97 missed calls, and over 200 unread messages, but I felt lighter than I had in years. I'd spent the night at my house, ignoring the constant notifications and sleeping better than I had in months. The first knock on my door came at 7 a.m. I opened it to find Amanda standing there, no makeup, hair disheveled, a far cry from her usually perfectly curated appearance. "Blake lied," she said without preamble, her voice small, "about everything. He's not even a real investment manager, just a junior clerk who lives with 3 roommates." I leaned against the doorframe, waiting. "He left last night after your texts exposed him. Said he couldn't handle the drama." She wrapped her arms around herself. "The power's still out at Mom and Dad's. They're staying at a hotel, but their credit card was declined." "That sounds like a them problem," I said, using her favorite phrase back at her. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything, but can we talk? Really talk?" I considered closing the door, but something in her expression stopped me. For the first time in years, she looked like my little sister again, not the polished competitor my parents had turned her into. Over coffee in my kitchen, Amanda broke down. "I've been so jealous of you," she admitted, staring into her cup. "You actually built something real, while I've been jumping from job to job, pretending to have my life together." Mom and Dad's constant praise felt hollow because I knew I hadn't earned any of it. "And yet you joined right in, when they banned me from Thanksgiving," I reminded her. She winced. "I know, I think it was easier to keep pretending you were the failure they said you were. If you were successful, it meant I was the real disappointment." My phone buzzed. "Mom again." I ignored it. "They're a mess," Amanda continued. "Dad's trying to figure out how to pay all the bills. Mom keeps crying about how she lost her son. They had no idea how much you were doing for them. They never bothered to ask," I said, too busy being impressed by fake hedge fund managers and yoga instructors. She managed a weak laugh. "God, that yoga studio. I was terrible at it. I only did it because Mom said it was more respectable than my idea to start an online business." I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of online business?" "Social media management. I'm actually pretty good at it, but Mom said it wasn't a real career." Kind of like how they talked about your computer hobby. For the first time in years, I saw my sister clearly. Not the golden child our parents had created, but someone who'd been just as trapped by their expectations as I had been. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. A text. Son, we need to talk. Your mother and I have done a lot of thinking. Please call us. I showed Amanda the text. They've been thinking for less than 24 hours. That's not enough time. She nodded. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. They need to understand what it's like to stand on their own feet. No mystery trust fund. No successful son secretly paying their bills. Just reality. And me? She asked quietly. Where do I fit in all this? I studied my sister for a moment. That social media management idea, was it serious? She straightened up slightly. I've been studying it for months. I have a business plan and everything, but no startup capital. Make me a proposal, I said. A real one, with projections and strategies. If it's solid, maybe we can talk about investment. But it has to be real, Amanda. No more fake success stories. The hope that flickered across her face was genuine. Really, you'd do that after everything. You're still my sister. But this time we do things honestly. Over the next week, the fallout continued. Mom and Dad had to move out of their hotel when all their cards were declined. They stayed with friends, their perfect image in the community crumbling as the truth about their financial situation emerged. I received formal letters from their lawyers, threatening legal action over the unauthorized bill payments. My lawyers responded with detailed documentation showing every payment was legal, made through a properly registered LLC. The letters stopped. Amanda surprised me with a thorough, well-researched business proposal. She'd been quietly building her knowledge while pretending to drift between careers. We set up a meeting with my company's financial advisors to discuss a proper investment structure. Finally, after 10 days of silence from me, Mom and Dad asked to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. Not the daily grind. I wasn't ready to share my sanctuary with them yet. We've been terrible parents, Mom said, looking years older than she had at Thanksgiving. We were so focused on appearances that we couldn't see what was real. Dad nodded. Your mother and I have talked about nothing else since everything happened. We owe you an apology. Many apologies. An apology isn't enough, I said calmly. You need to understand why what you did was wrong. Really understand it. They nodded, looking appropriately chastened. I'm not turning the payments back on, I continued. That chapter is over. If you want to rebuild our relationship, it has to be about family, not money. And if we need help, Mom asked quietly, then you ask for it directly. No more trust fund lies. No more pretending. And you accept that sometimes the answer might be no. They agreed, though I could see how hard it was for them to relinquish control. We had a long way to go, but it was a start. As I left the coffee shop, I received a text from Amanda. Just landed my first client for the social media business. A real one this time. Thank you for believing in me. I smiled and typed back. That's what family is supposed to do. My phone showed one final missed call from Blake. I blocked his number without hesitation. Some things weren't worth a second chance. That evening, as I sat in my usual spot at the daily grind, Katie brought over my usual coffee. So, she said, how did the great Thanksgiving power outage story end? I thought about my humbled parents, my sister's fresh start, and the weight of secret keeping finally lifted from my shoulders. It ended with the truth, I said, and sometimes that's the best revenge of all. The end.